In anticipation of the Africities Summit, we have the privilege of talking to Greg Monroe all the way from Brussels. Greg is the director of Cities Alliance, one of the sponsors of the Africities Summit. He is born and bred in Africa. Join the conversation.
I'm Greg Monroe. I'm the director of Cities Alliance, which is an organization based in Brussels, but with offices in 3 countries of Africa. If you wish to know something more about Cities Alliance, we are a partnership of many sectors, so including civil society, local government, national governments, multilaterals, academic sector, and we're a partnership to fight urban poverty, mostly in secondary cities. And we were launched as an organization that strived for cities without slums. We were launched in 1999 by Nelson Mandela.
Okay, that is great. I understand you are part of the sponsors of the Africities Summit that will be coming up in Kisumu next month. So what agenda would you be pushing at the Africities?
So a few things. One, Africities is one of our main events on our calendar. And 2 main things. So one is the whole issue of the secondary cities. So Kisumu itself is a secondary city or intermediary city. And these are the cities that are still growing and where you could have the most influence over in terms of that they grow sustainably with resilience and include all their citizens. So the one is about intermediary cities and poverty. That's always at the forefront of our agenda at any event, but especially in Africities, because the bulk of our work is in Africa. And then the organizers, UCLGA, ask us to facilitate what we call the tripartite dialogue, where we try and get discussions going between national governments that are there, local governments, and donors, to try and align the agendas of national government, local government, and the donor community. That we align activities and funding around common needs and issues that have been identified together. Those are the main things that we try and push in these kind of events, try and facilitate in Africities.
Okay, so you're partnering with other organizations in this agenda, right?
Yes.
Okay. You have ongoing agendas, initiatives around this agenda. Do you mind highlighting them? So,
as I said, we are a partnership to fight urban poverty. And we work, and we are merely a secretariat here in Brussels, but we do a couple of things. We will try and work through our members, with our members, so that it is a real partnership. We run a series of country programs. So in Liberia, Uganda, and in Tunisia, we have offices where we have long sustained country programs. And then we have a series of global programs that reach into multiple cities and countries. One on gender, and about making cities suitable for women. That women are safe for women, that have opportunities for women. We have a few programs on migration. A lot of this is centered around the Horn of Africa and East Africa, and because migrants go to secondary cities. And then the third area is around resilience and building resilience, especially in terms of climate change and climate, because many of the urban poor are living in informal settlements. They are the most vulnerable to climate change. They are living on steep banks and steep hills and prone to flooding, and so they are the communities that contributed the least to climate change, but are the ones who are the most vulnerable. And we try and ensure that these global and country programs interlink and and work for the same common purpose. Over the years, we've reached 176 cities in 88 countries.
Awesome. You have mentioned one of the reasons why Africa needs to focus on these intermediary cities is because most of the urban poor live there. So what other reasons do you think the African countries should focus on these intermediary cities?
So people migrate, and people migrate to urban. And this migration is getting more and more to the point where by 2050, nearly 70% of the world will live in cities.
Yes.
Now, when you migrate from and people migrate for economic reasons, they migrate because of conflict, they migrate for climate crisis and climate change. And when people migrate, and if they migrate from the rural areas especially, they migrate first to the intermediary cities, not to the big primal cities. They very often go to, and these intermediary cities are the ones that have the population that's growing the fastest, because these are where the people who migrate, even within a country, they go to secondary cities. They also the cities that still have to be built as they grow. So you've got more opportunity to influence how that city grows, so that it grows sustainably, that it includes all of its citizens, including and especially the urban poor are included in the growth of that city. And we do a lot of work on city development strategies and how you have inclusivity in a city as it grows. So it grows sustainably with resilience and with economic opportunities. But we don't look at the secondary cities only on their own, because they sit between the rural areas and the big primary cities. So they also function as a link between the rural area and the primary area. And very often they are the pathway where goods flow from agricultural rural areas into primal cities. So we do have a territorial approach, but the secondary cities are where you could have the most influence in terms of planning the future for sustainable growth of the city. And that's why our focus is on them.
Awesome. I believe you have answered my next question on the opportunities that African countries can tap in the intermediary cities.
Yes, no, I think, yes, again, I think it's a city development strategies, it's planning, it's sustainable planning, it's about inclusivity, it's about the territorial approach. Yes.
Okay, one of the major goals of the SDGs is to improve accommodation. And when that happens, slums are bound to crop up in those intermediary cities. How can the intermediary cities ensure growth while at the same time improving the quality of life for the people living in?
So number one, this is a reality. And therefore, we need to understand that people will migrate into cities and there will be informal settlements because services sometimes don't keep up. So the first thing is that people have a right to the city, to live in the city. And flowing swiftly from that is land tenure. Issues of land tenure. So we are very, very opposed to bulldozers going in and flattening informal settlements. That no one wins in that situation. It's about land tenure. And then, in terms of slum upgrading, and we need to be realistic. It's not a case of going in and building 1 million houses. If you give people land tenure, and then you give them access to microfinance and access to sustainable building materials, 80% of the slums are upgraded by the inhabitants themselves. You need to give them the opportunity to do so. And that is what we try and do. And very closely attached to that is the whole issue of basic services, water and sanitation and roads. And there are many ways that we try and influence this through urban expansion, where you can put out a road system with water and sanitation and allow the informal settlements to develop around that and in that, so that you get the basic services, you get opportunities for upgrading of the informal settlements, and you have land tenure. And that's That's how you try, I think, or what we try and do in informal settlements and slums and getting slum upgrading. Obviously, of course, allied to that is the whole issue of economic opportunities. So we are doing work at the moment in Uganda, where one of the big road developments was going to go straight through an informal settlement, and we've worked with the community and with the government, and not only looked at how the community can benefit from that road, but also what are the economic opportunities that road could bring to that community. And so it's a holistic approach to slum upgrading, but what it is not is going in and flattening the informal settlements and then building houses miles away. That's not what it is.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so still on Africa and integration. Integration is key for development in Africa. So in your own opinion, which gaps can African countries fill to boost this integration?
So I sit in an office in Brussels, but I'm an African myself, born and bred. And
Wow.
I always, and I've said it my whole life and working in various kinds of development, is that the solutions to Africa lie in Africa itself. And I can give you so many good examples. And I gave a speech last year and on local government, and it was to a European Northern Hemisphere audience. And I said, if you want to see the best local government in the world, if you want to see the best legislation, you go to South Africa. You want to see the best women in gender balance in local government, you go to Rwanda, and so on and so on. And every single example that I gave of excellence was a different country in Africa. So the first thing I think we need to do for integration on our development challenges in Africa is to learn from each other. And I think there's also collective effort. You know, these boundaries on maps, they were drawn by other people a long time ago. And sometimes those boundaries divide families, they divide communities. And we'd also need to think not only about in a national approach, but also in a regional approach and learning regionally and to create those opportunities to learn regionally, to learn from each other. Just today, an email came into my email. I got an email from a West African government who suddenly knew that there was something in Southern Africa that they could learn from, and could we help facilitate that? That's what we need to do for integration, and that's how we find our solutions.
Awesome. Now, finally, on the Africities Summit that is coming up next month, as I have mentioned, what are your expectations from the summit?
So a lot of people normally attend these summits, and the summit normally has two main goals. And the one is to find shared strategies in order to improve the living conditions of local people. The summit is not there just to be a talk shop. The ultimate aim of the summit is to improve the living conditions of local people in Africa. So, and we do that trying to find shared strategies at Africities. And then from that is that you contribute to the integration, peace, and unity of Africa. Because you have shared visions, shared strategies, and working very much from the bottom up, working with our communities and then our cities, and then we're working our way up from the local area and from our local cities. That's the expectations, and hoping that we can align some of our thinking and our strategies across Africities.
Awesome. Now, the very last, your parting shot to the African audience.
Well, I think if you look at urbanization in Africa, and I'll give you another statistic, for every one person that moves to a city in the Northern Hemisphere, there are 18 people moving into cities in sub-Saharan Africa, 18. So our urbanization rate is 18 times higher. And this is going to continue. We are going to have secondary cities that are going to really explode. And we need to work in an integrated fashion to plan ahead, to plan for the people that are going to move into the cities so they have economic opportunities and they have social inclusion and they're part of the fabric of the city. Together, if we do that and get the inclusivity, we can grow some very vibrant social and economic centers in cities in Africa.
Thank you so much, sir. It's been a great honor talking to you.
Great.
Thank you for giving us this audience.
It's a pleasure, Nicole. Good. Thank you.
Thank you.